Another important thing that I think, this is happening, but I think if we're going to talk about civil society in a school of that, many of us as individuals have ongoing, maybe historic or maybe new, links with social movements. Maybe we've come out of, maybe we're, part of, a part of the environmental movement. Maybe we've come out of, gay and lesbian, struggles for identity and so forth. Maybe we're part of, indigenous self-government. There's a lot of spaces that we come out of, and oftentimes, well, for the most part, we see that, well, that's sort of our personal, that's our political engagement, that's our citizen role. But if we're going to talk about an intentionally conceived school of civil society, then we need to be thinking about, it's similar to the question about, can we as students get credit for doing all of these interesting things? Can we as scholars and students develop what form of partnerships can we maintain with these various forms of social movements? Because behind civil society are these transformative energies, and they're not all positive, by the way. We've got some social movements that are pretty scary, but there's a lot of them that we like. Why these transformative engines that we call social movements? Another area, another element of this knowledge democracy that we're experiencing is, and it's been mentioned earlier this morning, and we've had my friend Jane here from the digital, open access movements, public democracy projects, digital democracy, that whole movement of which says that public investment, the results of research, that have been publicly funded, belong to everybody. And this is this debate about open access, and we get it as academics because we're sort of torn between, publishing our things in open source journals or these proprietary journals. Some of them are very good. They've all been bought out by publishing companies. I don't know how many of the academic society journals are now owned by these big publishing chains, and they don't want us to give our stuff away. They want to sell it to somebody, even or back to ourselves. So this knowledge access movement is part of knowledge democracy in general. Community service learning, of which Guelph has done such great work over the years, is another part of that, which we've heard a lot about this morning, and the wonderful kind of personal testimony to the power of that through the different students. Something else that I think that when we go forward, I think that we need to do a couple of things. I think we also need to acknowledge, and not only that, you see, Guelph. Somebody mentioned, who mentioned the agricultural history? When Guelph was created, it was created as an engaged university. It had a particular focus. Don't forget that almost all of Canada in those days was rural, and the main economic activity was some form of farming or agricultural, production. That was the way that, that people survived. And the University of Guelph was created consciously in its acts as an engaged university. And we have that at Guelph. We have other places, we have other traditions. So what I'm saying is that we can use those. We can use not only our history here at Guelph, but we can use 1912, the extension department at the University of Alberta. Henry Marshall Torrey, who built that, who was the founder of that university, created that extension. If you read, it's knowledge from the people for the people. And it's 1912. The Antigonish, St. Francis Xavier University, which is still a dynamic, great primarily undergraduate university in Antigonish, Nova Scotia, it, has been world famous throughout the 30s and 40s and into the 50s for the Antigonish movement, which has been linking of people living in fishing communities, the port communities, around the edges of Nova Scotia, with social economic structures, the credit union movement, with adult education, study groups, and so forth. That's engaged. That's an engaged university. So it's. I'm not saying this to say that, oh well, this has all been done. Not at all. But what I'm saying is that as we move forward with this extraordinarily innovative idea, and we take advantage of the moment, it's our history. We can, by acknowledging our history, acknowledging is an added like foundational piece. So we don't have to, we're gonna do something very different. The particular form that this will take here at Guelph will be different and new and fresh and so forth. But we do have lots of things, both locally and nationally, that we can draw on. Yeah. Okay. I think that's enough for me. I'm going to close. Some of the students have heard me do this yesterday, but I was emboldened by your president, who would actually not only quote from but admit to being a fan of Walt Whitman. This guy, Walt Whitman, by the way, was he was gay, he was radical, he was in your face, he was very unconventional. He was a person who spoke, as they say, spoke truth to power and all of that stuff. And I thought, wow, that's pretty cool. So I'm going to close my remarks by reading some stuff from one of my favorite poets, who Lawrence Ferlinghetti, who has those of you who closely follow the beat poetry movement of the 1950s will recognize that name. Anyway, a great poet and somebody who would have really, and he's dead unfortunately, but he'd be a great supporter of the School of Civil Society. And if you assemble a group of literary icons to associate with it, I'm sure Lawrence would be a good one to add to at the bottom of some list. Poets who we think would have loved to have founded this school. And how do you know that? Because I'm going to read a little bit and you'll see what I mean.